We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for an urgent bulletin from the local tri-state area. Authorities are issuing a critical missing persons report for a local man last seen active on dating apps. According to digital forensics, the individual vanished into thin air exactly 24 hours ago. The disappearance occurred immediately following a highly dangerous, high-stakes question sent by our newsroom. So what are you doing this weekend? Physical descriptions are limited, but suspects describe him as possessing a face, a pulse, and an iPhone 13 with a cracked screen. He was last seen wearing an air of unearned confidence and a pair of gray sweatpants. Search and rescue teams have already deployed to his last known digital location. They checked his TikTok repost. They scanned his Spotify recently played. They even searched the deep trenches of his public Venmo history to see if he paid anyone for tacos in the last 6 hours. Local police are asking the public, if you see this man actively viewing an Instagram story while ignoring a direct question, do not approach him. He's considered emotionally armed and completely unavailable. If you have any information leading to the recovery of his basic manners, please dial 1-800-GROW-UP.
Fab4 Expression presents the Unapologetically Reborn podcast hosted by Cody Fullin and Alicia Lynch. This podcast is meant to support awareness and reflection, but it is not a substitute for professional mental health care. If you need support, please reach out to a licensed professional or a trusted resource. A downloadable workbook can be found by visiting our website www.unapologeticallyreborn.com.
But I still want his tacos.
Well, welcome back to Unapologetically Reborn. Today we're tackling a modern relationship phenomenon that's likely happened to everybody listening. We are going to discuss ghosting. So, have you ever spoken and talked to someone for weeks, maybe even months? The chemistry is great, the text flow is natural, and you're starting to let your guard down. Then out of absolutely nowhere, no explanation. No, hey, I don't think we're a match. Just a digital flatline. You look at your phone, you see the unread messages, and you feel this heavy, hollow ache in your chest. If you've been through this, you know it doesn't just feel like a regular breakup. It feels disorientating. It makes you question your own sanity. And worst of all, society often tells us just to get over it, or that it's a dating app thing. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to validate exactly why ghosting hurts significantly more than it should. We're going to dive into the deep psychology of why human beings do this, what it physically does to your brain chemistry, and why your primitive instincts are treating an ignored text thread like an actual matter of life or death. If you've been left haunted by a digital Houdini, grab a coffee, slow down. Let's dissect exactly why this happens.
And no disrespect to the magician either. Or his family.
Are you familiar with ghosting?
Only ghost I know is from Scooby-Doo, and that has the mask on it.
All right, well, ghosting is the sudden, complete cessation of all communication from someone you're dating or talking to without warning or without explanation. So they don't block you, they just become a ghost. They exist online, but they're entirely unreachable to you. So, to understand why this specific type of exit is so brutal, we have to look at how the human brain processes narratives. Let's use a comparison that we all know, like a TV show cliffhanger.
The Sopranos.
Yeah, that's what comes to my mind is The Sopranos. Imagine that you watch a brilliant television series. You invest 10 episodes into the characters, the plots, the twists. The season finale ends on a massive cliffhanger. The main character is hanging off a ledge. A secret is about to be revealed, and the screen cuts to black. Then the next day, the network abruptly abruptly cancels the show. No resolution, no season 2, no closure. What happens to your brain?
You ask why, and Tony goes into the damn restaurant. What happens? You hear noises. Oh, there goes the credits.
You get frustrated.
You wasted 5 or 6 seasons, I think, or
Yeah.
even more. And then it's really, then like you said, the next day, shit's canceled. There was no point.
You get frustrated, but why do you get frustrated?
Because he wasted all that damn time.
Yeah, because of the investment. The human brain is an organic closure machine. We're hardwired to look for patterns and complete stories. When someone ghosts you, they're not, just canceling a show on a cliffhanger. If someone breaks up with you and says, "Hey, I'm reevaluating my life right now," or "I don't think we're compatible," it might hurt, but the story is over. The book's closed. Your brain can begin like the mourning process. But when someone ghosts, they leave the book wide open. Your brain gets trapped in a loop of trying to solve a riddle with 0 clues. You start rewriting the script in your head. Did they get into a car accident? Did I say something weird on page 4 of our chat?
Are they just assholes?
Are they secretly married?
Oh, that would suck.
Yeah. You aren't just hurting from the rejection, but you're exhausted from trying to finish a story that someone else abandoned. So why do people do it?
They're dicks.
In some cases. I guess some of it would be justified if it was like, domestic violence or, some kind of abusive scenario, then I respect that. But aside from that, yeah, they're dicks. Exactly.
Excuse my language or my French. I'm not French, so this is American made.
All right, well, we're going to look at the psychology of the ghoster. Many think that ghosters are malicious villains laughing into their phones. The reality is much more, it's pathetic. Ghosting is driven by severe emotional cowardice and conflict avoidance. Let's call modern dating what it is, the avoidance economy. Dating apps have turned human beings into profiles on a screen. It's gamified connection. And kind of like when you buy a pair of shoes online and they don't fit. So what do? Do you send in a formal apology letter to the shoe company? No. You click return or you leave them in your closet and you never touch them again. Ghosters have internalized this consumer mindset. They view ending a relationship as a high-stress chore and a digital screen that gives them an instant opt-out button. Think about the physical mechanics of a breakup. To break up with someone properly, you have to look them in the eye or at least hear their voice. You have to witness their disappointment. You have to sit in the uncomfortable silence of their sadness that requires emotional, maturity, accountability, and the ability to tolerate temporary discomfort. The ghoster doesn't want to pay the emotional tax for the discomfort, so their brain looks for the path of least resistance. They think, if I don't just text back, then they'll get the hint. I don't have to feel like the bad guy. They're prioritizing their short-term comfort over your long-term mental peace. Ghosting isn't a reflection of your lack of value. It's a glaring reflection of their lack of communication skills. They are emotionally bankrupt, and they don't have the funds to clear the check. So let's look at the entirety of the episode, or the basic concept here, why it hurts so much. A lot of people feel immense shame over how deeply a ghosting experience stings. You might think, we only went on 3 dates. Why am I crying in my car over this? The answer, believe it or not, lies in neuroscience and evolutionary biology. So let's talk about brain mapping. Functional MRI studies have shown that when a human being experiences social rejection, especially ambiguous rejection like ghosting, the brain lights up in the exact same regions that registers physical pain. So your brain literally does not know the difference between a broken heart and a broken arm. The pain that you're feeling is not in your head, it's a biological reality. The next is we have to look at our ancient caveman brain. Ever heard of that term before?
No. The only
All right.
thing I know about the cavemen are ones from the dinosaurs.
Okay, so thousands of years ago, human survival depended entirely on belonging to a tribe. If you were part of the tribe, you had food, shelter, and protection. If the tribe decided that they didn't like you, they didn't have an HR department to give you feedback. They just silently moved camp in the middle of the night and left you behind.
Another one, assholes.
Yeah, exactly. Ostracism was literally a death sentence. When someone ghosts you today, your modern primitive brain doesn't understand that you can just order Uber Eats and survive alone in your apartment.
That is why ice cream was invented, for people to cry.
That's precisely why ice cream was invented. No, chocolate, actually. Kidding.
You get chocolate almond fudge, you'll be there for a while.
Your evolutionary wiring panics and interprets the sudden silence as ostracism from the tribe. So your nervous system triggers a fight or flight response because biologically speaking, silence feels like abandonment in the wilderness. So if you feel deeply wounded, stop judging yourself because your body is just trying to protect you and you're using software that hasn't been updated in 50,000 years. So let's have a little fun, shall we? I think we should. We should talk some shit. So now it's time to look at the cosmos. Let's peer into the alignment of the planets to see what the universe has in store for the people who vanished from our inboxes this week. Because if living won't answer our text messages, maybe the cosmos will. Welcome to the weekly Ghosters horoscope. This is the only segment on the internet where we look at the alignment of the planets to figure out exactly why someone stopped replying to you and exactly what petty cosmic punishment the universe is sending their way. Grab your birth charts, hide your red receipts. Let's see what the stars are saying about our favorite digital runaways. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The stars for Aries. Let's start with Aries. The stars see you. You didn't reply because you got distracted by a shiny object or a brand new hobby that you'll abandon in 4 days. Your cosmic punishment? May your favorite streaming app glitch and freeze during the final 5 minutes of every season finale.
That's cruel.
That's
That's cruel.
awesome. Let's look at Taurus. You didn't ghost because you don't like them. You ghosted because leaving your bed required putting on real pants, and the universe knows you lack that strength. Your prophecy? May your takeout order always arrive with the wrong dipping sauce.
Not bad.
Every single time.
Not that bad.
Gemini. The twins. One of your personalities wanted to go, but the other personality decided to go completely off the grid and start a new life in an airplane mode simulation. The cosmos decrees. May your phone battery always plummet from 40% to 1% the exact moment you need to open your digital boarding pass.
Oh my God, that's worse than the damn Aries.
Isn't this fun?
God, it's torture.
So is being ghosted. Cancer. You got overwhelmed by a single text asking, what are your weekend plans?
That's a cosmos. Cancer. Really?
I'm not done.
That's worse. That's worse
Cancer.
than Aries.
Cancer is their sign.
No, that's what I mean.
Oh, I thought you were saying I wanted them to get
No.
cancer.
What type of, excuse my language, what kind of effing shit is that? Oh, I have cancer.
That's not what I said.
No, I meant horoscope. I got cancer month. What kind of damn birth month's that?
I don't know. I didn't create it. So Cancer got overwhelmed by a single text asking, what are your weekend plans? So you crawled directly back into your emotional shell to cry. The universe understands but still punishes. May your fitted bed sheet pop off the corner of the mattress every time you roll over tonight.
Oh, I hate that shit.
Leo. You didn't text back because the message wasn't explicitly a compliment about your hair or your outfit. Since you couldn't find a way to make, hey, what's up about your personal brand, you archived that chat. Your destiny. May every selfie you take this week be slightly out of focus.
That's not that bad.
Virgo, you didn't reply because their message had a typo and you're currently drafting a 40-page manual or proper grammar. Your cosmic punishment, may you always find a single long hair in your freshly opened soup.
Oh, God. Think of that. You eating some chicken noodle for damn, you're sick and, oh.
Libra, you physically cannot choose between saying yes or no, so you decided to simply stare at the notification until you pass away, basically. The cosmos decrees. May you always get stuck behind someone trying to pay with exact change at the grocery store.
Jesus.
Scorpio, you assume their casual hey was actually a psychological trap designed to extract your deepest secrets. So you burned your phone. Your prophecy? May your headphones always tangle into an impossible knot the second you put them into your pocket.
Oh, Jesus.
Sagittarius, you read the text while boarding a spontaneous one-way flight to a country you can't pronounce, and you completely forgot you live in reality. Your destiny? May your favorite pillow always be warm on both sides.
Not that bad, but...
Capricorn, you didn't reply because the conversation did not generate a measurable financial return on investment. The universe punishes you by, may your spreadsheet formulas always return a syntax error.
Isn't that like taxes and shit?
No.
Oh.
Aquarius, you choose not to reply to prove that you're an independent spirit who cannot be constrained by the societal construct of texting back. Your punishment? May your Wi-Fi disconnect every time you open a new tab.
Oh, my Lord, I think I'd cry.
Pisces, you fell asleep dreaming about your imaginary wedding with them, waking up 3 days later completely convinced that you already replied in real life. Your cosmic fate, may you always step into a small puddle of water right after you put on a pair of fresh socks.
Oh, Jesus. Why? That would torture too. That, the Wi-Fi, and the headphones, and the Aries one.
There you go, bitches.
Fuck's sake, that's normal. That's not even normal torture. That's cosmic.
All right, so let's go back to being serious now. High conflict avoidance and low emotional efficiency. Here's the concept. People who coast lack a psychological trait called emotional self-efficiency. The internal belief that they can successfully handle difficult emotions or stressful conversations. To break up with someone cleanly, a person must tolerate temporary discomfort. They have to sit in a room or stay on a call and witness another human being become sad or disappointed. The ghoster's brain views this discomfort as an existential threat. To protect themselves from feeling like a bad person, they choose a digital escape. So, think of the ghoster like someone who accidentally knocks over a priceless vase in a museum. Instead of finding a security guard, apologizing, and cleaning up the mess, they look around frantically, pretend that they didn't see it, and walk out the front door.
Poor janitor.
They aren't evil mastermind criminals. They're just cowards who can't handle the mess that they've made.
So assholes.
Yeah. So let's look at avoidant attachment styles. Attachment theory dictates how we behave in relationships based on our childhood conditioning. Ghosters heavily lean toward an avoidant attachment style. When an avoidant person begins to feel emotional intimacy or vulnerability, their internal alarm system triggers a red alert. They view closeness as a threat to their independence or a trap where they will eventually be rejected. Instead of communicating this fear, they pull the emotional ripcord and vanish to regain a sense of total control. The dehumanization of the infinite scroll, the psychology of choice overload and technical cognition. Dating apps have fundamentally rewired human interaction. When we meet people through a screen, our brains categorize them similarly to products on an e-commerce website. Ghosters suffer from the illusion of infinite options. In their mind, they aren't ignoring a living, breathing human being with feelings. They're simply closing a tab or deleting a notification. The psyche of the ghosted. Why does it destroy you?
Because you put all that work and effort for it, and then they screw you over.
Well, the pain feels deeply agonizing and personal, so understanding the psychological mechanisms of why it feels so brutal can help realize the reaction is a normal human response to an abnormal situation. There was a therapist, her name is Pauline Boss. She came up with ambiguous loss. It's a psychological trauma where a person disappears when there's no closure, no body to bury, and no finality. When someone passes away or says that we're breaking up, the loss is painful, but it's clear. Your brain can immediately categorize the event and begin the grieving process. So ghosting creates an ambiguous loss because the person is still alive, they're active on Instagram, and they're physically fine. So your brain cannot mourn. It gets stuck in a perpetual loop of hope and despair, waiting for a resolution that never comes. Kind of like, here's a comparison. It's kind of a stupid analogy, but you're reading a mystery novel and the final chapter is physically torn out of the book. Your brain doesn't just forget the story. It kind of drives you nuts to guess who the killer was. Ghosting tears the final chapter out of your relationship. So it leaves your brain desperately trying to solve a riddle with zero clues. Make any sense?
Yep, but one difference compared to me and you, that book would be tossed if I read all that and it gets ripped, ripped apart, whatever, the page is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I know where that book is flying.
My hand fell asleep.
I'm not trying to be violent, but I'm knowing my opinion.
Internalized attributions. This is something that many of us do, the self-blame cycle. Attribution theory explores how humans explain the cause of events. Because the ghoster leaves no explanation, the human brain is forced to create one to fill the void. Humans naturally lean toward internal attributions, meaning what? We blame ourselves. The ghosted person instantly begins a brutal self-audit. Am I not attractive enough? Did I text too fast?
My fat.
Yeah. Did they find out a secret about me? Ghosting essentially weaponizes the victim's own insecurities against them, turning their mind into a courtroom where they're both the defendant and the judge. Ostracism and social death.
You know way too many damn big words. Ostracism.
Ostracism. The psychological study of silent treatment is ostracism.
Sounds like you're damn doing an exorcism on a damn ostrich.
Well, maybe we need to, huh?
Hmm.
Psychologists have found that ostracism, being completely ignored or excluded, is treated by the human brain as an invisible form of psychological abuse. It strikes directly at our core needs: belonging, control, meaningful existence, and self-esteem. When someone ghosts you, they are essentially communicating the cruelest message possible. You don't matter enough to me to even warrant a rejection notice. It temporarily erases your sense of value as a human being. Now, people that have complex trauma and are dealing with any kind of abandonment stuff from their past, that's even more difficult. So I know you're looking at your phone, you see the silence, and you ask yourself, did they actually care about me? How can someone who cared just evaporate? Psychologists have looked into the minds of ghosters, and the answers might surprise you. It turns out that ghosters generally fall into 3 distinct camps. When you understand which camp your ghoster belongs to, the silence starts to make a lot more sense. The pro-social avoidant. So they care, but they're clumsy. Believe it or not, a huge percentage of ghosters actually do care about you, but they're deeply emotionally immature. Recent behavior studies show that many ghosters genuinely believe that they're protecting your feelings by vanishing. Their internal logic is like this: if I tell them I'm not attracted to them or that I don't see a future, it's going to hurt their feelings and make them cry. If I just stop texting them, they'll gradually get the hint, and it will spare them a humiliating rejection conversation. They mistake their own fear of confrontation for an act of kindness. They fail to realize that their silence is infinitely more painful than a polite, honest rejection. They care, but they lack the communication tools to show it responsibly. So the next one, the guilt-ridden escape artist. They care, so they block you out. This is the person who ghosts you instantly, realizing that they did a terrible thing, and they experience massive guilt and shame. But instead of texting you to apologize, their brain pulls a psychological trick. They push you entirely out of their mind. Every time they think about you or your unread messages, they feel like a bad person because they hate feeling like a bad person. They basically rationalize it.
So they guilt trip themselves.
Well, they tell themselves, it's been a week now, so it might be weird if I text them now. They'll probably hate me anyway, so I'll just leave it alone. Their silence isn't a sign that they don't care. It's a sign that they're actively running away from their own guilt.
So still an asshole, but with heart.
I guess.
Golf clap on that one.
The dark triad consumer. They truly don't care. Now, there's a third group of ghosters who generally don't care. Psychology tells us that people high in traits of narcissism or, psychological issues view dating like an infinite scroll on a shopping app. To them, you're a transactional experience. Once they get bored or they find a new option, they simply close the tab. They don't experience guilt because they lack fundamental empathy.
So it's like when you're buying things off of Amazon.
Basically.
You put instead of just checkout, whatever, to buy it, it's just sitting on the cart, whatever it's called.
All right. Well, I personally feel like this is the worst one, but it makes more sense when you think about this. So what happens when the ghoster isn't some random stranger that you swiped on last Tuesday? What happens when the ghoster was a good friend, a real friend, someone who knew your secrets, someone who spent months or years building trust with you, someone who stepped out of the friend zone to pursue a romantic relationship, and then they vanished with zero explanation? This is a completely different level of heartbreak. When a stranger ghosts you, it ruins your week. When a trusted friend ghosts you, it alters your ability to trust humanity.
That means they're just cruel.
Well, let's look at the psychology behind why a good friend would do something so cruel. It usually comes down to a psychological phenomenon known as vulnerability collapse. Think about the stakes for your friend. They took a massive gamble. They stepped over a very clear boundary from platonic friendship into romantic vulnerability. In their mind, they didn't just ask you out. They put their ego and their entire ego and their hidden feelings and their deepest insecurities on the line. If that romantic spark didn't work out, or if they suddenly realized the reality of a relationship didn't match the fantasy of who they've been building in their head for months, they're hit with a wave of intense, paralyzing shame and exposure. So instead of having a mature conversation and saying, hey, I know I pushed for us to be more, but I realized I'm not in a place to handle this, and I value our friendship too much to mess it up, their emotional circuits are overloaded. They look at you and all they see is a mirror reflecting their own rejection, failure, or confusion. Or they don't have the emotional maturity to separate their romantic failure from the platonic history that you shared. So, to escape this crushing shame, they burn the whole bridge down. They run. To help you understand why this hurts so much more than a standard breakup, let's use a comparison. When you date a stranger, you're renting an apartment. You look around, you see if you like the view. If it doesn't work out, you pack your bags and you move out. You lose a little time, but your foundation is intact. But a long-term platonic friendship, it's a safe deposit box. Over months or years, you've been placing valuable things inside of this box. You put your vulnerability in there. You put your late night secrets, your history, your safe spaces in there. You trusted this friend to hold the key. When that friend decided to pursue you romantically, they're asking you to open that deposit box. But when they ghost you after things don't work out, they don't just walk away from a romance. They run away with the entire box. They take your history, your shared memories, and your platonic safe haven with them. You're not just mourning a relationship that never got off the ground. You're mourning the death of that friendship that brought you there in the first place. You're grieving two people at one time, the partner they could have been and the friend that they used to be. If you're listening to this and you're trapped in the grief of losing a friend who wanted more and then took off, stop blaming yourself for opening the box. Their inability to handle the transition is a glaring spotlight on their emotional deficit, not your worth. A true friend doesn't treat your shared history like a disposable lighter. If they could walk away from years of connection just to avoid a 15-minute awkward conversation, they were never the safe harbor that you thought they were. They were just an emotional tourist, and you deserve investors. So let's sit with the most painful question that you'll face after a friend or a lover vanishes. You look back at the videos of you two laughing. You remember the late night conversations where they cried and told you that they loved you, that they've never felt this way before, or that they look at your empty inbox and you ask, basically, like, was this all a lie? Were they a malicious predator playing me from day one? Or did they actually want to be with me? It's agonizing to feel like you're a punchline or a joke. You know, you didn't know what was being told, but behavioral psychology gives us a very clear way to distinguish between someone who was a malicious player and someone who was a genuine person experiencing a psychological collapse. To untangle this, let's look at the timeline of the relationship. We have to look at the difference between the actor and the runaway. So the malicious player or the actor. If someone was playing you all along, whether they were a narcissist looking for an ego boost or someone using you for a transactional reason, their behavior follows a highly specific calculated script. A malicious player operates like the actor. When an actor's on stage, they know exactly what lines to say to get the audience to cry or clap. They study you. They figure out your insecurities and your weak spots.
Nice guys.
Yeah.
Or person. Whatever.
If you tell them, my last partner never listened to me, the actor will immediately become the best listener on earth. But because it's a performance, it requires immense energy. A malicious player cannot maintain the script forever. So look back at the weeks before they ghosted you. Did you start to notice like a Jekyll and Hyde shift? Did they start subtly punishing you, mocking your insecurities, or gaslighting you, or making you feel small? A malicious player doesn't just walk away. They usually devalue you first. They make sure that, they've extracted what they wanted, whether that was validation, sex, or attention. And once the novelty wears off, they drop the curtain and they walk off stage because the play is over. If there was a pattern of subtle cruelty, control, or manipulation before the ghosting, then you were being played. But there again, when we're discussing like the friend problem or the friend issue that occurred, that's, what am I looking for? Help me. That's a little more difficult because usually in a situation like this, okay, let's say that you meet somebody, a week ago, a month ago, 6 months ago, whatever it may be. Most people, when they walk into a relationship, I shouldn't say relationship, but when they walk into an environment or whatever, where they start to have a relationship, where they start dating somebody, they don't generally just dump all of their stuff or even act who they truly are. A lot of times there's, a slow process of getting to know someone, and you don't feel comfortable just telling them your most intimate thoughts. But when it's someone whom you've known for decades or someone you've had relationships with that were deep friendships, they know these things about you. So all your cards are on the table and they can play them. They know, the relationships that you've been through. They know the ugly things about you or the good things about you. They can twist and turn and do all sorts of ugly things, I guess. They know, let's say that you were a woman who was in an abusive relationship, and if they know this, who do they become or who do they portray? The knight in shining armor, right?
Yeah, the best person on earth.
Right. So your savior, so to speak. And they can use that against you, which is really
manipulative,
pathetic.
Manipulation.
And that's why that hurts, I think. So the next one, the runaway. What about the other side? What if there was no cruelty? What if the intimacy felt 100% pure, deep, and mutual right up until the digital flatline? This is where we're going to meet the runaway. When a runaway tells you that they love you, they're not acting. In that exact moment, they mean it with every fiber of their being. Their tears were real. Their affection was real. They genuinely wanted to be with you. So why'd they leave? They left because they loved the idea of you, but they were absolutely terrified of the reality of commitment. Think of runaway psychology like someone who signs up to run a marathon. They buy the shoes. They tell their friends they're going to do it. They stand at the starting line completely pumped. They genuinely want to finish the race, but day one of the training hits and they get a cramp. Their lungs burn. They realize how much hard work, emotional maturity, and vulnerability and sacrifice a real relationship takes. Suddenly, their internal alarm system panics. They realize that they don't have the emotional lung capacity to run the race. So instead of walking up to you like an adult and saying, hey, I'm out of breath, I can't do this, they hit with an overwhelming wave of shame. They hate the fact that they're not strong enough to love you the way that you deserve. So they pull the emotional energy brake, pack their bags in the middle of the night, and run away. Their ghosting wasn't a sign that the love was fake. It was a sign that their capacity to hold that love collapsed under the weight of their own fear. That's also a thing.
Another nice person.
Well, it's hard to stick everybody in a box, but through researching, this is what I came up with. So the actor is consistent in their manipulation. They have a trail of crazy exes behind them. They're always the victim in every story. They never share their actual messy, vulnerable life with you. They only share a curated version. So there are some signs for you to look for. The runaway is chaotic. They have a history of running away from jobs, running away from deep friendships, and avoiding conflict at all costs. But here's the hard truth. Whether they were an actor or they lied to you from day one, or a runaway whose love was real but whose courage failed, the tragedy is exactly the same. You can't build a home with someone who disappears the moment the wind blows. So basically, we have to stop trying to figure out their feelings and whether or not they were genuine. Even if they loved you, their love was an eviction notice. A person who loves you for real doesn't leave you in a haunted house trying to solve a riddle. They show up. They stay in the room. They keep the lights on. So if we sit with that truth for a moment, whether they were an actor performing a script or a runaway who loved you but lacked the courage to stay, the result of your life is identical. You're standing in the middle of a room holding a connection that the other person completely dropped. This is the exact moment where the loop of confusion has to stop. So more than likely, you've been spending all of your mental energy looking backward. You've been trying to diagnose their attachment style, decode their childhood trauma, and figure out their true intentions. We've been acting like a detective at a crime scene where the suspect has already crossed state lines. So drop the magnifying glass. It's time to turn the spotlight away from the person who left and shine it directly back to the person who's still there. And that person is you. Healing from a ghosting experience, especially when it was a friend or someone who you deeply loved, does not happen because they finally text you an apology. It happens when you decide that you're no longer going to let an empty inbox dictate your human value. You can't heal an emotional wound while you're still waiting for the person who cut your hand to give you the bandages. So how do you rebuild your foundation? How do you take the ancient caveman brain of yours out of the panic mode and bring it back to safety? Any guesses?
No.
Well, you do it with a strict, non-negotiable psychological rehabilitation strategy. So let's look at the 3 core pillars of recovering your power after being ghosted. First step is the hardest, but let me stress, it's entirely non-negotiable. You have to stop knocking on a door that's been boarded up. So this means no more sending that final closure text. You know, the one that you send a few times. I just think it's funny how you vanished messages. When you send a message to a ghoster, your brain is secretly hoping for a response to validate your pain. But when they leave that message unread, you're physically re-traumatizing your own nervous system. You're letting them reject you a second, a third, a fourth time. If they were a friend who ran away because of shame, your text makes them run further. If they were an actor, your text gives them the satisfaction of knowing that they still control your emotions. Stop feeding the loop. Block, mute, delete. You're not doing it out of anger. You're doing it to protect your peace of mind. Pillar 2, write your own final chapter. Remember how we talked about the canceled TV show cliffhanger? Your brain is desperately demanding a conclusion. Since they refuse to write the ending, you have to write it yourself. So here's a physical exercise for you to do. Take out a piece of paper, write down the final chapter of that relationship. Write down exactly what their silence communicated to you. Don't ever write, "They left me because I wasn't enough." Instead, write something like, "They left me because they didn't have the emotional maturity to stay in the room." Clarity doesn't come from their explanation. It comes from your observation of their actions. Their departure is the explanation. Read the final page out loud, close the notebook, and decide that the show is officially over. You're canceling the contract. Pillar 3, reconnect to your tribe. When you're ghosted by someone close to you, your primitive brain genuinely believes that you've been cast out of the wilderness to fend for yourself. That's why you feel that your physical aching panic in your chest. To heal this biological response, you must intentionally flood your life with predictable, safe, and consistent connections. Go spend time with your friends that actually do text you back. Call the family members who've shown up for you over the years. Grab coffee with people who don't make you walk on eggshells or decode riddles.
Hope you don't have to pay for it.
Well, you need to remind your nervous system that safety actually, what it feels like. You need to prove to your caveman brain that you're not alone in the woods and that the tribe can actually, it matters. The tribe is still there. It's still standing beside you. If you're staring at a silent phone or grieving a friend who turned into a ghost, Repeat this phrase. Their silence is not your closure. You don't need them to text you back to tell them, to tell you why they left. The fact that they vanished is your answer. The ultimate diagnostic test of their character. It tells you, regardless of how beautiful the chemistry felt or how the real love seemed in the moment, they simply didn't possess the emotional funds to stay in the room where the reality of vulnerability showed up. You deserve relationships where the connection is hardwired, where communication is consistent, where you never have to decode a riddle just to feel secure. You're too brilliant. You're too valuable. Time on earth is too precious to spend it acting like a pro bono defense attorney for someone who treats your heart like a crime scene. So
they're guilty.
Well, this is a hard concept, and you can't take it unless you're ready for it. But basically,
you can be a friend all you want if you're going to run away. So just say it now.
I think
the narcissist thing, yeah, I understand that. They can, they're just dicks. The friend, though, that makes it worse.
I think so.
Because you're friends with this person, you finally get in a relationship, then you run. That's like a big middle finger to, you spend all this time, they run away, and it's a big F off.
Well, see, for me, I guess my personal opinion in the whole equation would be, okay, the time of investment, that's one thing. Okay, fine. You put time into a relationship or friendship, whatever, you're not going to get that back, whatever. Everybody knows this is a give and take. This is what people do. This is, this is how this works. But for me, I think the hurt isn't, I know we discussed like the cliffhanger and investing time, and I guess it depends on what situation that you're in. Investing time is rough in like long-term relationships. That's an entire different subject. But for me, I think the hurt would be more of a respect factor. Like if you met someone a couple of weeks ago and you really like them and whatever, it sucks to be rejected and to be played and what have you. But if this is someone that's been in your life for a long time, or someone that you've invested,
years,
things with, time, intimate conversations, whatever it may be, it's a respect thing. You just assume that, this person respects you because they've invested time with you, and then all of a sudden, bam, they're gone. Maybe some of that also is incorporated into people that you just met. It's just the right thing to do. It's just, be honest about it. And this isn't working for me or what have you, rather than just because the scenario that happens in somebody's mind is probably way worse than what's actually occurred or what the person thinks about you. They might not necessarily think that you're, what did you say, fat or, hideous or ugly or stupid or this or that or boring or whatever your mind goes to. It could have absolutely nothing to do with you. It could just be the fact that hopefully they're not secretly married, but they could just not be ready for the situation or scared, or maybe they do have issues with their attachment styles or their childhood stuff, or maybe they're afraid or intimidated or whatever it may be. Who cares? I'm not making excuses for them. The bottom line is, don't ever ghost anybody.
True.
Just, have enough respect to just say, hey, this isn't,
be honest at least.
This isn't what I thought this was going to be, or this isn't, I don't see a future here.
But if the person is married, that's kind of fucked up.
Happens every day.
And that is why divorces happen. Shit like that.
I realize that we went over time, so.
Yes.
Before we turn off the microphone, I just want to say one last thing to anyone currently staring at the, static chat bubble. For those of us with complex trauma, our brains love to overanalyze a ghoster. We treat their silence like a profound, mysterious riddle. We spend hours trying to figure out what deep, unhealed wound made them pull away. But let's be entirely honest. They're simply not that deep. You're highly involved. Your evolved hypervigilant brain is running a massive structural investigation on someone whose deepest daily thought is choosing between a burrito or a taco. You're bringing a master's degree in psychological analysis to a person who lacks basic kindergarten level sharing skills. So the investigation is officially closed. We're reclaiming our brain cells. We're muting the notifications. We're letting the ghosts hunt someone else's inbox. You're far too interesting to be waiting around for a text that just says LOL, yeah. Thank you for hanging out with us today in this messy, honest corner of the audio world. Take care of your nervous system. Stop checking their social media stories. And we'll catch you on the next episode. We're going to continue a few more episodes of Love Lies in the Nervous System. I hope that you have a fabulous week. Anything you want to say before we close?
No.
Thank you very much for being here and watching Unapologetically Reborn.
What about your book?
Oh, I will post a video after the podcast if you're interested. This last weekend, I had a book launch on Kindle, and I offered it for free over Memorial Day weekend, which thank you for your service, by the way. Unfortunately, it didn't go, I'm going to be honest, it didn't go as great as I thought it would. I mean, I had I had a few downloads, but nothing real fabulous. But on behalf of people out there that are authors, I will say this. It's very imperative to, if you don't mind, any book, you buy a book off Amazon, it's very appreciated if you'd leave a review. It's just like the algorithm on social media. Basically you write a book and you're on such and such a number and you're basically the bottom of the food chain. So reviews help bring those books up because people aren't going to sit and scroll through hundreds and hundreds of books and they might never see your material because it's way on the bottom. But if you give a review, it brings the book up. And people that can utilize it, they have access to the material because they see it. We're filming at 3:00 in the morning. So this is why this guy looks like he's ready to pass out. Anyways, thank you very much for tuning in. And like I said, I will leave I'm going to leave my book trailer. I'll leave my book trailer after the podcast if you're interested. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you for watching Unapologetically Reborn. This is where survival ends and choices begin.
They talked about addiction for years and years. The bottles, the bruises, the anger, the tears, the highs and the lows, the breaking apart, but seldom discussed what it did to a heart. Not the heart of the addict alone in the fight, but the child lying awake almost every night. The child learning silence instead of trust. The child taught survival because they must. The child counting footsteps, reading each tone, trying to predict if the house felt like home. The child growing older but never quite free, still carrying fear no one else could see. Some never touched substances, smoke, or a drink, yet still lived much closer to darkness than think. Because addiction does not simply stay inside one person and fade away. It lingers in children who learn to hide pain, who smile on the outside while drowning in rain, who grow into adults still searching to find why anxiety follows the back of their mind, why love feels unsafe, why peace feels so strange, why their whole nervous system braces for change. And somewhere inside them still echoes the plea, can somebody finally understand me? That question became a book for the children who learned to disappear, who carried survival for year after year, for the adults still asking, why am I this way? While carrying wounds they still hide today. Its pages were written to help people see the child underneath all the anxiety, to show them their struggles did not make them weak, but came from the chaos they never could speak. Because children can survive almost anything true, but surviving too long changes something in you. Wounds ignored do not just fade, they follow every choice we've made. Through anxious hearts and sleepless nights, through endless internal hidden fights. Unapologetically Unseen by Alicia Lynch. On Kindle for free starting May 23.